Hello guys, welcome to this video. Today we're just going to be learning about the basic algebra, basic quadratic, and arithmetic. So let's start with arithmetic. Continuing on from previous video. So yeah, we covered adding and subtracting negative numbers, right? Well, if we go furthermore, then we could actually get to multiplying and dividing negative numbers. So let's start with just multiplication. How would you do 2 times 2? Well, we obviously know that the answer is 4, right? Then how would you do negative 2 times 2? I want you guys to really think about it. And how would you also do negative 2 times negative 2? This is a ugly looking 2. This is so yeah. How would you do this? Well, the answer for this is negative 4 and regular 4. But how? Well, you can think of it like the negative carries on. You know that if you could just think of it like, this is actually a way too complex rule for this, but it might be way too complex for you to memorize. But you can see that negative 1 times 2 is actually just the same thing as negative 2. And 1 times 2 is the same as regular 2. Right? Well, in multiplication, the order doesn't really matter. So you could just multiply these two, which would equal to negative 1, and multiply 2, which is equal to 4. Then what would happen if you multiply this? Well, then it would equal to negative 4. So you can just think of it like the negative carries on, and you just multiply these two. I'll use a different color. So 2 times 2, which is the regular numbers, and there's the negative sign here. So the negative sign carries on here, and we can see that 2 times 2 is 4. So that's how you get your answer. Before this, wait, I thought negative 2 times negative 2 was supposed to be negative 4. Wrong. It's not. Well, two negatives actually cancel each other out. Because negative 2 times negative 1. Think about it. If this was 1, then why would negative 1 times 1 be 1? I mean negative 1, right? They shouldn't be equal. So that's why the Society of Math just decided that negative times a negative should form a positive, canceling each other out. So you, in this situation, would just ignore these negatives, because I find the negatives sometimes really challenging for many people. I see many people struggling over these negative signs. So I want you guys to remove this negative sign and think that it's just 2 times 2, only if there's negative on both numbers that you're multiplying. So 2 times 2, which is just 4. Yeah, that's multiplication. Wait, but how would you do division? It's actually the same thing, except you're just dividing the number. So yeah, let's start with 2 divided by 2. What is that? It's pretty evident that it's 1, right? Because this number can fit in this number 1 time. Yeah, that's 1. But what about negative 2 divided by 2? What would that be? I want you guys to pause the video and think about it for a minute. Hopefully you've done it. So we'll just dive deep into this. So you can write dividing as a fraction, if you didn't know. So it's actually negative 2 divided by 2 is equal to negative 2 over 2. So this 2 The one on the right side would be the denominator, and this would be the numerator. I like to think that this number goes down. It's really easy to think it that way. So yeah, what would this be? What would this be? Well, if I don't know how much time -2 can fit into this. Do you? We just learned the multiplication. What would happen if you multiplied the denominator by -1? Then it's -2, right? So yeah, this number can fit in this number -1 times. So the answer is -1. But what about -2 divided by -2? Well, we could do the same for this. -2 over -2. Well, what happens if the two same numbers are on this? They cancel out, which is just 1. So yeah, this is how you do the basic arithmetic. So I'll just move on to algebra. Kind of running tight on time. So yeah, algebra. What is algebra about? It's about a variable, a specific variable called x. Not always, but usually we say x. This is very important. X. So yeah, it looks like algebra, so I'm just gonna fix it. X. So yeah, you're solving for x, and there's two types. There's expression and equation. An expression is something that you can't solve but only simplify. So let's say there's x times 2. Right? I'm just going to separate this to show that this is a multiplication. What would this equal to? This simplifies into 2x. But we can't solve for the value of x because we don't know what it equals to. This is an expression. And an equation is something that you can actually solve. It will look like this. 2x is equal to 4. Then how would you solve this? Well, you would figure out that x would be 2 by plugging in numbers like 1, 2. Oh, that's the answer. 2. Look, 2 times 1 is 2, so it's not. But 2 times 2 is 4. So yeah, that's the answer. Well, actually, there's a better way of doing this. The equal sign acts as the balancing system. So yeah. What do you mean by that? Well, whatever you do on this side, you do on the other side. So since there's 2 here, you want to get rid of this number. You want to isolate the variable. So how would you do that? 2x over 2. Then these two cancel out, isolating the variable. And you do the same on the other side. Then you'll get the value of x equals 2, which is correct. And what about this example right here? How would you do this? Well, you could see that it's clearly the variable is equal to 2, right? But how do you get that in a much more complex questions? Well, like I said, you want to isolate the variable. So how do you get rid of this? Well, you subtract 2 from it. And what did I say? Whatever you do on this side, you do on the other side. So yeah, first 4 subtracted by 2 is equal to 2. And x is 2. That's how you do the basic algebra. So let's get into quadratic. What is quadratics about? It's x squared. Yeah. It's just squared. X squared. Suppose you got a question that said, if x squared is equal to 36, this is an equation because you can solve it. You might be asking how. I want you guys to pause the video, don't plug in numbers, and figure out a way of solving this. If you didn't listen and plugged in 6, well, the answer is still right. But it might be, the question might be far more complex than that. So later, it's not going to work. So how would you do this? Well, in the basics, if there's only one variable that's squared, then you just square root it. And like I said, whatever you do on this, you do on this number right here. So if you square root it, then x is equal to 6. Because 6 times 6, or 6 squared, is 36. So yeah. Well, what about some silly questions like this? X squared, 3, I would say, and then 2, plus 2. How do you do this question? Well, this is a homework. I want you guys to really figure out on this one. Next video, I'll explain how to solve this, and we'll get into factoring. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe for A+. Thank you.